Hey Ricky, how are you? Good to see you.
Hey, I'm great, Hugo. Thank you. How are you?
Hey, I appreciate your time with me and Destino today. I wanted to jump in and get like a glimpse of your world over at Blumhouse. Are you able to start with your name and what you do?
Yeah, sure. My name is Ricky Escoto, and I am the Director of Business and Legal Affairs for the film division of Blumhouse Productions.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And your latest project that's coming out is Megan 2.0. Are you able to tell us a little bit of the work that you did on that project?
Yeah, sure. Megan 2.0 is obviously a sequel to our previous movie about a murderous robot.
Yeah.
And so I didn't work on the first film, but the second film I was on from the start. To begin, I had to we film with a different production entity for every single movie. So one of
Okay.
the first things I would have had to do was to create an entity and file it and get it set up as a normal company.
Right.
And we use that production entity to run everything through the movie, payroll, taxes, it's et cetera for the movie. So that was like the first thing that has to happen. And
Yeah.
then I help out with all of the contracts. Our production team starts hiring the people to work on the film, and I go through the contracts and make sure that they are up to speed and they are correct for what we need. I help my team navigate the mini contracts for everybody who works on the movie, from the line producer and the director and the writer,
Yeah.
all the way down to the location scouts and the grips and electric people that have to have, you know, week and day player agreements. And so yeah, we're involved in hiring and making sure everybody gets paid. I work very closely with our finance team, make sure they have everything they need in order to pay everybody who's working on the shows or the movies. And yeah. So a typical day would be waking up to a barrage of emails, in this case from New Zealand. And that's where we shot Megan. And
Yeah.
just making sure that anything that needs to be taken care of from the company side is taken care of. Whether it's somebody had an accident on set, or somebody needs to, we're still working on an agreement for an actor who's only in, a certain number of the film and they haven't started yet. So I'm making sure that that deal is getting buttoned up, and then that deal is signed. And
Yeah.
um I also have to register the film for the guilds.
Oh, right.
So I'm the person who gets them signed up with SAG, the DGA, WGA, IATSE, so that all the people who work on the film can get paid and get their pension, health, and welfare. And I have to make sure all of that happens before we roll camera, because we can't fly the actors and until
True.
SAG approves us. We can't roll camera until the DGA approves us.
Yeah.
And IATSE is really more of like a formal like signing up with. There's no like approval process there. It's more like just making sure they have all the information they need from us
Okay.
to give us the go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really important work, to be honest, because from my personal experience, I mean, I can't move forward until I get that deal as far as on the project that I'm on. And same goes with everybody else. Like, we have to make sure that that's all like correctly done before any work is even started.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into a film even before you start hiring people.
Yeah.
There's the development process is lengthy. Our team works on the script, going back and forth with the writer, and then once the director is hired, then we go back and forth with him on what, or her on what their vision is for the film. And then it's about like having somebody budget it out. They take the script and they're like, this is how many days it's going to take to shoot. This is
Yeah.
how, this will work out. And we're sort of, my department's sort of the department that's integral to everybody else. Like
Right.
everything. that needs to happen comes through business and legal affairs in some way or another. So we touch everything.
Well, to stick to that topic, who is your support team as far as like the team that you collaborate with the most?
So we deal a lot with production. They are our first, like, we work in tandem with the production team.
Yeah,
Everything that we need is usually going to come from them, like the information that we need, like for the insurance, for instance, we have to get set up with an insurance policy for the film, and we need a lot of information about who's going to be on, how many days, what the schedule is, all of that, the budget, all
yeah,
of that's handled by production. And in order to get us, insured, production needs to give us those things. And in reverse, when production hires the line producer, for instance, then they have to give us all the information so that we can do their deal.
right.
So it's a constant back and forth with production, and also the the distributor. In Megan's case, Universal is the studio distributing the film,
Okay.
and we have to get them the budget numbers. We have to give them the schedule. They get everything, and a lot of that comes from production.
Yes. How often do you juggle multiple projects at the same time?
Oh, too often for Yeah, so we started this year with in the beginning of the year we had, I want to say, four projects all starting around the same time.
Wow, yeah.
Um Megan we actually shot last year,
Okay.
but yeah, and all of those things that we shot either at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, now they're all in post-production.
Yeah,
Some of them are also having reshoots. So it's almost like, luckily, a lot of what I do to get a movie set up doesn't need to be redone for the reshoots or additional photography unless we're hiring new people, like people who weren't available from the original principal photography.
right.
Then we'll have to get involved. If there's more location agreements that need to be done, then we'll have to look at those.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the bulk of the work is done. Yeah.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about your beginnings, how you got started. I mean, we got to meet each other at Warner Brothers, but how did you land? How did you get your first jobs?
So I actually was a paralegal at a labor employment law firm many moons ago,
Yeah.
and I realized I didn't like doing litigation. Like it just wasn't fun for me. I had a friend who worked at Warner Brothers, and he said, "Why don't you come like in-house? We have several legal departments at the studio." And he helped shop my resume around,
Yeah.
and I ended up in business affairs for Warner Brothers Television. I started there in June of 2005,
Right.
and I went from being an assistant in business affairs to being an assistant in production, which doesn't
Okay.
happen very often. But my boss was the only person in business affairs who wasn't an attorney, and
Okay.
she previously ran Witt Thomas Harris,
Yeah.
and they asked her if she would go and head up the production side. So I ended up in production for about 8 years, which is
Wow.
where I learned a lot of what goes on the set of, in that case, a show. And I thankfully it's not really that different for a movie.
Yeah.
For a movie, you just have to do it once instead of 22 times, or nowadays 10 to 12. But yeah, so I learned all about production there, and then I ended up as a contract administrator in business and legal affairs again, dealing with the contracts and option dates and making sure the actors were picked up and the rights agreements were all buttoned up and things like that,
Yeah.
which was great. I did that until I was sadly laid off from Warner Brothers in the
Yes.
December of 2022.
Yeah.
And then I was out looking, and it was hard because Warner Brothers had become my home. It was really hard to leave and make a transition.
True.
And this job came about at Blumhouse, and I knew who they were. I like horror movies, so
Yeah.
I was intrigued. I applied, and I eventually got the job, and they took a chance that my TV skills would transfer over to film, and they have.
Great.
And it's been great. Like I have no regrets. I'm really happy. They're a really great company to work for, and the scary movies do not translate to scary people. I promise, we're all quite nice and friendly.
Yeah, no, I do remember that part of your journey, your time at Warner Brothers, and yeah, I'm really glad that you were able to land on your feet because it is scary times for people when that situation comes about.
Yeah, it is. And luckily, like I think the number one thing to realize when you're not just in our industry,
Yeah,
but in general is the connections that you make are so important. Like
sure.
treat everybody how you want to be treated and show what you can do. I'm not, don't pat yourself on the back, but like just work hard and treat everybody great because I got this job because of someone I worked with at Warner Brothers Television. An
Right.
attorney in the legal department that I worked closely with who really liked me ended up having previously worked for my boss, my current
Hey,
boss. They worked together for like 5 years at another company in New York. And I ran into her randomly. I had applied for the job and I didn't hear
wow.
back. I didn't hear back for months. And I randomly ran into her and she asked me, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing? Have you landed anywhere yet?" And I just mentioned that I'd interviewed at Blumhouse and I hadn't heard back from them, and she asked me the name of my boss and she goes, "I know him. I'm going to call him and tell him he has to hire you." And that's what she did.
Wow,
And a
that's
couple of weeks
great.
later I was
Yeah,
asked to come back in again.
very
So
cool.
it all comes together. Everybody you meet, whether it's just in passing on the set of a movie
Sure.
or like at the gym, in our case that's how you and I met, was
Yeah,
at the Warner
exactly.
Brothers gym. It's really important to keep those connections up and always remember everybody you meet is it can play an important role in not just your career but your life too. So
Yeah, exactly. And it's true. And like sometimes even when it feels like something is not happening for you or you're running out of patience, you just never know. I mean, everything's always just one call away. And like you said, for um your story, what you just shared with us is that, you didn't even expect that to happen.
I, I sort of, I mean, it was 6 months. I was out of work for about 6 months, and I sort of had thought I was going to throw in the towel on the industry and try and look elsewhere and maybe even move out of town.
Right.
And just by chance, I ran into this woman at the grocery store, and
It's so funny.
now here I am, and I love this job. I really do, and they're really happy with me. It was great. It was serendipitous.
For those young people that would like to be, for example, part of your team, what kind of skills do they need to work with you?
So in business and legal affairs, a legal background is preferable. I'm not an attorney. I got my training as a paralegal and I worked at a law firm, and then I worked as an assistant in business affairs at Warner Brothers. They're separate departments.
Yeah.
Um, just for everybody's education, business affairs is usually the department that deals with in TV the networks and the streaming channels to sell the movie, and they also do the negotiations of the deal. So they're the ones going back and forth with the agents and the lawyers to negotiate the writing agreements and the directing agreements um, and the rights for, like, if we're going to option a book to make a TV or a movie about it. And then legal is usually the department that then takes it and drafts everything,
Okay.
and the actual lawyers, right, who doing the lawyerly stuff. So some bigger companies, they have two different departments. So so I did have a legal background, which definitely served me well. I know how to read and interpret legal documents and contracts and other agreements.
Yeah.
But what has served me the best in my current job was my time in the production department at Warner Brothers Television. That is where
Hey.
I learned what happens on a set,
Yeah.
what documents are needed to employ a person, to, sign up for the guilds, to fulfill the requirements for the union. So, you have to submit DGA work lists and WJ work lists and SAG work lists, all these things that have to come together in order for the production to
Yeah,
flow. That was very important. So organizational skills are key, attention to detail, um, and just an ability to wear a lot of hats,
right.
especially at a smaller company like mine. A
Sure.
big corporation, you can get very siloed, and you have a lot of people have one job and one thing that they oversee, and that's it. But a little company like mine, I mean, I'm doing all sorts of things,
Yeah.
and so the ability to multitask and think quickly is definitely necessary. Yeah.
So how do you handle last minute notes or any type of last minute changes?
Well, it's a team effort, so whoever can help like pitch in does. We get our emails. I mean,
Yeah.
when we have an overseas show, we get emails before we even wake up because they're
Right.
9 hours ahead.
Yeah.
And you go through those and you just see what needs to be handled in the moment. And
Right.
you do what you have to do, and if you don't know how to handle it or you can't handle it, again, because I'm not an attorney, I can't give legal advice and I can't like I can interpret the agreements, but I can't negotiate them. Like I can't, um, offer like suggestions on things. So
Sure.
I get it to the right person if I don't know the answer, and it's all got to be done quickly because a lot of times things are going to be shooting that day. This happens
Right.
a lot in clearances.
Sure.
Like I handle the clearances. Everything that goes on the screen needs to be cleared.
Oh,
If you're going to buy a bag of Doritos, you got to make sure that you have permission to put it on the screen or whatever.
yeah.
And a lot of times the props department, the art department, the graphics department, they're creating things, buying things, they're using things, and they're like, I need this to go on to shoot, tomorrow. And
Right.
so they're contacting us like, is this okay? Do we need to get this cleared? Is this so fine? Like, can we use this name? That kind of thing. And I gotta get those answers as quickly as possible. So it's just a constant like overseeing the email inbox.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate your work because for me, as a graphic designer, I'm always chatting with our guy, Robin, over at Universal. And yeah, like you said, any type of labels that I create, I always have to let him know the sources, how it was created, from the fonts all the way to what images I used for inspiration. And I cannot have it on stage until he writes back, okay to use. So yeah, it's
Exactly. So
definitely part of the
we would be
process.
getting that from you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. If you were sending me something to clear, I'm like, okay, this looks great. Where did it come from? Like, did
yeah,
you just think this up or did you have an image that you used or whatever? Yeah,
sure.
those are all the same questions that I ask every day when we have something in production.
Yeah, as well as like fake names for grocery stores or chips, whatever it is. I definitely have to run a full list of names because obviously the one that you want may not be available. So just to save time, you send in five or whatever it may be so that you can get a quicker answer. And because I can't even start my job until you, for example, approve a name that I could use.
That's right. And since we're not a big company, we don't have our own in-house clearance people. So
Okay.
a lot of those things, like if you wanted to use like a bunch of if you were doing a scene at a doctor's office and you wanted to put name plates on all of the doors of different
Yeah,
doctors and then, a name tag on whoever the doctors or the nurses in the scene were, I would send all of those names that you to a third party who would do the clearance research and make sure those things were cleared because we
right.
don't do that. We don't have the resources to do that in house.
Yeah.
But I'm the person that has to go and hunt all that down and make sure they get cleared and then tell graphics, okay, you can use that, or
Yeah.
here's how you can design your fake license plates.
Yeah. Well, great. Hey, Ricky, for any young people that want to do what you do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I would if you specifically wanted to be in business and legal affairs, again, you don't need to be an attorney to do what I do, but it wouldn't hurt. So if that's something like long term that you thought maybe would be a go, law school is always great. But if not, I got my paralegal certificate at community college. I went
Okay.
there. It was an online program.
Yeah.
Took me 9 months. It was a while ago, forgive me, to do. And I just studied and I got my paralegal certificate. And that's what, impressed people to give me the chance at Warner Brothers
Right.
and taught me how to read legal documents and understand them and interpret them and summarize them. And those are the major skills needed to work with lawyers.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you, Ricky. I really appreciate our conversation and for you to give us some time.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'm happy to help and happy to help you out. So, plus, it's always great to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. Thanks, Ricky.